Last week, the Senate Republican Caucus elected a new leader. Joining me to talk about his new role is the former Senate President and now Senate Majority Leader, Senator Jeremy Miller. Welcome.
Thank you, Shannon. Happy to be here.
First of all, congratulations on your election to lead the Republican Caucus. You joked to the press last week that your wife asked you, why do you even want the job? So my first question is, why did you want the job, and why do you think your colleagues chose you?
Sure. Well, thank you so much for having me on today. It's truly an honor to be selected as the next Majority Leader of the Minnesota Senate. The reason I ran for the Senate is because I wanted to help make a difference, and that's the same exact reason why I want to be Senate Majority Leader. I want to work together with folks in both chambers across the aisle and the governor to really get good things done for the people of the state of Minnesota. That's my priority. That's the priority of the Senate Republican Caucus.
And speaking of working across the aisle, in 2013, you and Roger Reinert, a DFLer from Duluth, got together to form the Purple Caucus, and the effort was to advance legislation that both parties could agree to. So with that in mind, as Majority Leader, your job is to promote your caucus's, point of view and agenda. So is there a shift in your thinking? How are you thinking about those two different ideas?
Sure. Again, for me, it's all about working together and getting good things done for the people of the state of Minnesota. Back in 2013, Senator Reinert and I were sitting together in a committee meeting, and there was a discussion going on with a lot of disagreement, and we both leaned back in our chairs and said, there has to be a better way to do this. And it's not necessarily being more conservative or more liberal or giving up on your principles. I'm a conservative guy. I have conservative principles. I'm going to work toward conservative solutions for the people of the state of Minnesota. But when disagreements arise, you can either approach those disagreements in a respectful way or in a divisive way. And what I'm going to really try to do, and what Senate Republicans are focused on doing, is let's get through those disagreements in a respectful manner, and let's work towards an outcome that's really in the positive view, what's most positive for the people of the state of Minnesota, and that's what we're going to be working towards.
You are a new leader now for the Senate Republican Caucus, and just last night, the DFL caucus elected Melissa Lopez Franzen as their caucus leader. She's the first member of the People of Color and Indigenous Caucus to lead an entire caucus in the Minnesota Senate. You are, if I'm not mistaken, the first majority leader in Minnesota history to be of the Jewish faith. Both of you are parents to young children. Are we witnessing the passing of the baton from the baby boomer generation to this new, younger, and more family-involved generation? And and how much of that has to do with the increasing diversity in the state of Minnesota?
So Senator Franzen and I have a good relationship. I expect that working relationship to continue as we each lead our caucuses. Whether or not it's passing the baton, I think it might be too early to say, but I do think it's an opportunity for us to try to get more more younger people involved in politics. It's so incredibly important for us to get more and more people involved, and hopefully this helps lead to getting more Minnesotans involved in the process.
This week, Governor Walz announced the creation of a Governor's Council on Economic Expansion. The state does appear to be in the midst of a labor shortage across many industries, including childcare, retail, construction, skilled workers. What is your view on what's needed for Minnesota's economy to grow and recover coming out of the pandemic?
Sure. I'm not familiar with the governor's new council, but what I am familiar with and what I'm a huge advocate for are public-private partnerships. I think it's incredibly important for our industries to be working together with our higher education institutions, especially the technical colleges throughout the state, which usually can adapt a little bit more quickly to meet the needs of the workforce. And another thing I believe that we need to do both at the state level and especially at the federal level is provide incentives for people to get back to work rather than providing incentives for people not to work.
Okay. At last week's press conference, you mentioned that the Republican caucus is increasingly concerned about rising crime rates all across Minnesota. This legislative session, this coming one, is still a ways off, but I wonder what kinds of legislative changes could potentially be put in place that would thwart increasing criminal activity?
Sure. Well, in my view, one of the fundamental responsibilities of our government is public safety. And seeing the increasing crime rates across the state is very, very concerning. Senate Republicans are committed to working together with stakeholders, including law enforcement, to provide them the support that they need to hold non-law abiding citizens accountable for their actions. So we're going to do whatever we can to really work together with law enforcement and improve on those increasing crime rates and really provide them the support that they need to keep our communities safe.
Now that you've had almost a week to settle into this new role, are there any other issues or concerns that are rising to the top that are sort of bubbling to the surface that will probably come up in the next legislative session? What are you hearing?
Sure. So I think the first priority is getting to a special session agreement as far as the frontline worker bonus pay. Senate Republicans are committed to working towards an agreement there to make sure that those funds are distributed in a timely manner.
Is that getting closer, as far as you know?
As far as I know, they're close to an agreement, and we want to make sure that those resources that were passed by the legislature in a bipartisan manner get distributed as quickly as possible to those who were on the front line during this pandemic. So that's incredibly important. Of course, redistricting and bonding will be two topics of discussion during the next legislative session, but really public safety, I think, is going to be a top priority for the Senate Republicans going into the 2022 legislative session.
Finally, you were president of the Senate, presiding over floor sessions since 2019, occasionally tossing the gavel in the air and catching it again. It really seemed that you enjoyed that position. So I wonder what you really enjoyed about it, and will you miss it?
Presiding over the Senate as Senate President was certainly one of the highlights of my career. I've enjoyed that position a great deal, and it's sort of bittersweet to give up that role and move into the role of Senate Majority Leader, but I'm ready for the next challenge, and again, looking forward to working together toward solutions that are good for the people of the state of Minnesota.
Senate Majority Leader Jeremy Miller, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.